It's a major strike in Israel yesterday, bringing the country to a halt. Protesters marching against the government in support of a deal with Hamas that would free remaining hostages held for almost 2 years. On Saturday, New York City saw its largest protest against Israel action against Hamas in Gaza in months. And new and returning college students now arriving on campuses across the nation as all of this is happening. Jonathan Greenblatt, the CEO and national director of ADL, sending a letter urging universities to better address anti-Semitism. I want to welcome you to the show this morning, but boy, is this a unique and complicated moment, given these protests, given this sort of issue about the way the government of Israel is acting or behaving and some of the tragedies taking place in Gaza right now, and the confluence of anti-Semitism. How do you think about that right now?
Look, I think the complicated is the right word for it. I think all of us on all sides sort of bemoan the tragedy in Gaza, right? It is painful to see these pictures of people, clamoring for aid and in such desperate need. And at the same time, it is painful to see protesters here in this country putting all the blame on the Jewish state for a war that Hamas started. And there's anxieties to go back.
My question to you, as a Jew, especially now, where do you believe anti-Semitism starts and stops? And the reason I ask, in the context of, are the folks that are protesting what Israel is doing right now, do you think that they are unto themselves anti-Semitic? Look, is that protest anti-Semitic?
Look, I've got to say, it's a fair question and kind of an amazing one, because I know I've said, and many people have said over and over and over again, protesting Israel isn't anti-Semitic. The hundreds of thousands of people in Tel Aviv and Haifa and Jerusalem, they're not anti-Semitic. But if the only country that you think has any responsibility for the situation is Israel, if you parade signs around that claim Israel is a Nazi state, if you make wild claims that, like Bella Hadid's father, Mohammed Hadid, did over the weekend, that he wants to destroy the state of Israel, that crosses a line. I mean, literally, I just can't understand, Andrew. I care about children in Gaza, too. But why was there not a single sign yesterday or over the weekend saying they care about Israeli children? Why isn't there a single person at these protests saying, Qatar, lean on Hamas? The one-sidedness of this is just astonishing, and it makes people like me, people who care deeply about all human beings, wonder, is there something else going on when you only blame one side?
Here's the thing that I worry about. I worry. I agree with you, by the way. Why is Israel the only one being blamed? 100%. Unfortunately, it seems to be the reality of the way the world seems to look at this. And maybe that unto itself is anti-Semitic. I don't know. But my question to you is how you feel about some of the actions of Israel right now, and whether you think that whatever is happening here, from just a very practical perspective, is almost creating a new sense of anti-Semitism and almost growing that feeling among others. That's what scares me.
Well, look, I'll tell you what. I think
even if you 100% agree with what Israel is doing, in some ways, it may have this counter effect that I'm now increasingly worried about.
Look, Hamas staging a war while hiding behind civilians, Hamas holding hostages, which is their only point of leverage, creates almost an impossible riddle for Israel to solve.
But then the question is, what's the right answer?
So the question is, why is it that Jewish people in this country get blamed for what a nation on the other side of the world is doing constantly? Like a couple weeks ago, we had an individual show up at a synagogue in San Antonio with a knife, yelling at the people who came out of services, F all you Jews, go back to your country. We had a Jewish man assaulted in broad daylight in San Francisco.
I get that on Twitter.
Okay, but you're a bit of a public figure.
I'm saying it's happening all over the place.
And it's wrong. And again, no one goes to, you guys were talking about the summit that happened over the weekend. Find me one example of people going to a Russian Orthodox church and screaming at the parishioners about what Putin is doing. It just doesn't happen. The idea that somehow all Jews should be targeted is deeply, deeply wrong.
People, when you had bombings that were taking place in London.
I grew up in a town with lots of Irish Catholics. Yeah. I can't remember once that happening, even in the height of what the IRA was doing. Right. And so now we flash forward to here in New York. We have a mayoral candidate.
Well, that's where I want to go with this next.
Sure.
So what do you make of this mayoral candidate who likely, the rate things are going, is going to become the mayor of this city?
Yeah.
And the fact that he, was asked, as you know, 3 times repeatedly, do you condemn the phrase globalizing intifada? And for whatever reason, almost inexplicably, unless you believe he's an anti-Semite, which you might.
Let's just make sure all the viewers know the intifada was a violent uprising in the Palestinian territories where they murdered over 1,000 people simply because they were Jewish. Bus bombings, stabbing, shootings, etc. So that being said, why won't he condemn globalizing intifada? Because he believes it. I mean, I think we have to take people at their word. Look, in the last several months...
That'll make it even more complicated. We had Hakeem Jeffries on last week.
Yeah.
Okay, we talked about this, and we talked about it in the context of those comments.
What did Minority Leader Jeffries say?
He almost couldn't condemn him either in that regard, because what's going to happen is if he wins, people who even disagree with him on things like this will think that they have to agree with him.
Look, whether you agree with President Trump or a would-be Mayor Mamdani, we have to deal with elected leaders as they are. But I think there are questions we should ask right now. Like, this candidate has visited churches and mosques, not a single synagogue. This candidate has gone to Harlem to meet the black community, Washington Heights to meet the Latino community, Chinatown to meet the Asian American community. And not once to a Jewish neighborhood.
The last poll I saw, something like 32 or 33% of Jewish Americans in New York were supporting him.
Fairly respectfully, Becky, I don't believe the polls, because I know something about this candidate. He hasn't been to any of the mainstream Jewish institutions. It would appear, I mean, I haven't heard from him. I don't think the heads of most of the major Jewish groups have.
I mean, forget the polls. How many voted for him in the Democratic primary?
I mean, relatively speaking, we know that the way that worked out was actually a pretty low number. But the question is why he went to meet Reverend Sharpton in Harlem. Why has he met any mainstream Jewish leaders in a public forum where his views can be aired? I think we know why, because I think he was a Student for Justice in Palestine organizer who proposed legislation in Albany to restrict the ability of Jews to donate, or anyone to donate to Israeli organizations.
It's a family-wide thing. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at something, mother, father, and wife.
Here's another poll that says 67%.
Mother,
I don't buy any of these polls.
On record with stuff that you would not like.
I'm not so I don't know so much about his parents to speak about that. All I know is that whoever you vote for, I think it's reasonable for Jews like all New York to say, are we going to feel protected? Are you not going to appoint radicals?
Have you called him?
Have I called him?
Have you called
I haven't called any of the candidates.
Would you call him?
Would I call? I haven't called any of the candidates. The better question would be, would I meet with him? And I would only meet with this person under clear circumstances. I won't be used by Mamdani. And it's amazing to me the other Jewish leaders who are willing to do that. Make it public. Be accountable. Under those conditions, I'd meet with anybody.
Do you think he's an anti-Semite, straight up?
I don't know what's in his heart, but I know the things he continues to say, the places that he doesn't go. Again, can you imagine a candidate for the mayor of New York? You visit churches, you visit mosques, you do your campaigning in Urdu and Hindi and Cantonese Mandarin, not once in Yiddish, not one visit to a synagogue, not one stop at the West Side JCC. Why? What is that candidate afraid of? Now, look, I'm nonpartisan. All the candidates should show up. But this guy has real questions that he refuses to answer. It's reasonable for people to say, why is that?
Let me ask you a different question. Universities.
Yeah.
So Harvard getting close, apparently, to some kind of deal with the administration.
So they're saying, yeah.
Or so they're saying.
Yeah.
Are you happy about that deal? Is $500 million the right number? Does that make you feel good? Does that make you feel bad? Do you think this is a shakedown? What is this deal?
Look, the reality is the anti-Semitism on these campuses has been like a tsunami. And we could not get in previous years, the administrators to end it. The Trump administration has leaned in ways that have been constructive. Groups like ADL with our report card have leaned in ways that have been constructive. And now they're changing. I worry about overreach. We've talked about it on this show. But I want to see change. And my hope would be they work out a deal where these schools, they sort of remediate the rot inside these institutions. and make it safer for Jews and all students.
Do you have any sense that they're actually going to do that?
Look, you know what I would do right away? I would stop the Qatari money. I would say no more dark philanthropy from foreign donors. That would be a place.
Do you genuinely believe that the dark money, if you will, the Qatari money, is impacting things on these campuses?
There's no question. Like, the reality is, if you look at, I'm a Northwestern alum. Northwestern has a campus in Doha. That makes it hard for the president of Northwestern to criticize Qatar. Like, you guys have sponsors that make it more complicated in some ways to call them out. And when you do,
honestly,
you have to recuse.
We don't.
Well, you're a journalistic institution.
Our deal is we're supposed to call them out no matter what.
But like for academic institutions, I think it's much more complicated. And yeah, I mean, the reality is all this money that doesn't get checked, that they don't make transparent, creates conflicts of interest. I would say no more foreign money in these institutions.